Okay, Al, go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our virtual forum here on behalf of Cando and our partners. I want to welcome each and every one of you in this virtual way on this fine afternoon here that we're all experiencing. And hopefully it's been a great morning, and hopefully we kind of fill a little bit of the gaps there with any inspirational needs that you need for today. And we have a lot of fine information for you through this virtual forum. I just want to make mention of the National Links to Learning in partnership with the Procurement Assistance Canada and others. Topics to come: procurement, partnership, Alberta Showcase, a little bit of housekeeping. If you feel like you have a great question or any type of curiosities throughout the afternoon, you're welcome to raise the hand, use the raise hand function, grab some water and grab a notepad in case you'd like to take notes. We will have a $100 gift card draw today, and today's session is on accelerated 2-year CEDI program. And so with that, I believe a lot of this information was given to you prior to the day. I'm originally from the Big Stone Cree Nation, but I make my home in Edmonton, and it's great that we can still come together in this way. As we know, the world opened a number of years ago, but with that, we still want to make it accessible to each and every one of you, and gather here in this virtual platform. So with that, I'm really honored to join you all. I'll kind of be helping with any of the flowing kind of easygoing feelings here this afternoon. And so again, just want to encourage each and every one of you to ask questions, be curious, and let's have a good, I guess, 1 hour session here. And so with that, we had a little bit of change in our speakers for the day, but nonetheless, we're still wanting to carry out this very, I guess, informational and very important virtual forum for this afternoon. So with that, I believe I'm going to pass it back over for a couple more introductions, and we'll kind of get into the swing of things here with introducing our speakers, and then really starting with that intentional, I guess, presentation here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marissa Lawrence. I'm the Acting Program Manager for the CEDI Program. I'm really pleased to be here today with my colleague from FCM, Tanya Tourangeau, and a recent CEDI Partnership graduate, both representing Natoaganeg First Nation and Miramichi. I'm coming to you today from the unceded and traditional territories of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, also known as Vancouver. And I'll give you a really quick overview of the program and what we're going to try and accomplish here today. Most important and really is the CEDI way is that we highlight recent graduate partnership here. As I say, Natoaganeg and City of Miramichi representatives are here to share their experience in the CEDI program, particularly in our accelerated 2-year program. Following that conversation, I'll provide a better overview of the CEDI program, what we're offering as a phase 4, and what lies ahead for the application process. We'll do a summary of intake deadlines, and then, of course, most importantly, question and answer time to ask both of the partnership and us as the CEDI team. Just really quickly before I hand it over to Tanya to take us through a conversation, I really just want to highlight these 2 CEDI program goals, and not to simplify our efforts or our program, but always really important to name that our program goals are twofold. The first is to support communities to establish and maintain sustainable and resilient relationships. And we do this at multiple levels between elected officials and senior administrators, but also within the broader communities. And the second is really important to clarify. We're a capacity development program. So the second goal is to increase the capacity of communities to engage in long-term planning. 2 years is very short, so you may not see a shovel in the ground on your project, but the goal is here to create long-lasting ways of being in relationship together and doing collaborative planning for mutually beneficial community economic development in your communities. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tanya and ask for you to take it from here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marissa. And good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be able to highlight one of our recent CEDI graduates, now CEDI alumni. And for those who are not familiar, as Al said, CEDI stands for Community Economic Development Initiative. And what you're looking at on your screen right now is the partnership that we're going to highlight. This is the partnership in New Brunswick. I had the honor of being at their graduation workshop and getting to see the community in person and seeing what they're working on. You see the picture to my right where they're holding up the plans there. That's what they're going to share a little bit more about of where they got through as they became CEDI graduates through the process. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And we have a representative from the First Nation, Natoaganeg, and from the city of Miramichi. And before I guess I let them, I have them introduce themselves, I should introduce myself. My name is Tanya Tourangeau. I currently work for FCM. I'm the reconciliation lead and have been here for a year. And I give the municipal perspective to the CEDI program. But I also have the background working with Cando. I worked on the program from 2017 to 2020 on previous partnerships with Cando. So I'm able to give that two-eyed seeing to the CEDI approach. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and start with Sydney and ask Sydney to introduce herself.
Hi, Notali with Sydney, Nil Nujao Village. So my name is Sydney Paul. I'm originally from Councillor First Nation, New Brunswick, but I currently work for Natoaganeg. And I do economic development there, and I've been working there since 2001.
Fantastic. We'll hand it over to our representative today from the city of Miramichi.
My apologies. I was having issues getting unmuted there for a moment. My name is Ryan Summers. I'm currently in my second term as a city councillor here in my lifelong hometown of Miramichi. And I am a proud father of a very busy 9-year-old boy, and proud to be a part of this group and looking forward to today's discussion with all of you. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I got some questions to talk about your experience within the CEDI program. And we'll start with you, Councillor Summers, but as well, Sydney, whenever you want to pop in, feel free to do so to expand. First, Natoaganeg First Nation and the city of Miramichi joined the CEDI program in February of 2022. Would you please tell us about the state of the relationship between your communities prior to then?
Sure. I would say, in my opinion, I feel like our community, our city of Miramichi and the community of Natoaganeg, ultimately, I'm of the opinion that we were the perfect fit for this type of a program. The city of Miramichi has 3 First Nation communities bordering us, I guess is the way to put that. But particularly with Natoaganeg, we literally, we're minutes away from each other. So I think the connection was there geographically right off the bat. And in terms of our relationships prior to joining CEDI, I think as a member of City Council representing the city, I feel like during the 2 terms that I've been in this role, we've made a lot of progress working together with our First Nations communities. That's not a slight on any of the previous members of council or, the 30-year history of the city. But I'm proud of the fact that, over the last 10 years, we've shown our community as leaders, both myself and Sydney, the ability to, have an open mind and work together. I've had a very heavy sports background. So I've always liked the teamwork approach and the mindset towards these types of things. So, I mean, as far as, during the last number of years, I noted that on Canada Day of 2019, we signed a peace and friendship accord with all of the surrounding First Nations communities. To me, that was a huge day, a very symbolic moment for our city. And I feel as though the members of each of those communities felt the same on their end of things. So I feel like the working relationship has always been there, just not so much so in the public eye. So it's really great to get this out in the forefront for all of us. Thanks.
Yeah, since I'm not from the area, coming in 2021, they had the Peace and Friendship Accord signed. So that kind of opened the gateway for me to work collaboratively with their economic development team. So one of the things that we did for to try to strengthen the relationship was to invite their staff to sit on our economic development committee. And they've been doing that since 2021, actually.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing insights of where your relationship was at when you started with CEDI. Now, Sydney, in May 2025, a few months after you graduated from the CEDI program, would you please tell us about the ways that your partnership has grown over the course of the past few years?
I feel it progressed in a way where they felt more comfortable coming to us as First Nation, because I know there's some apprehension sometimes working with non-Indigenous organizations or municipalities. So I feel like with the partnership, it kind of validated that it's okay to ask those questions. So I felt that was a pretty big stepping stone. Along with having, sorry, I'm in training and there's people coming out in the group, so I apologize.
No worries.
So yeah, so that kind of helped solidify a lot of that. Along with we were able to get a lot of things accomplished. So we signed a peace and friendship policy, which basically states like how to conduct ceremony. So it like how they because they used to reach out to the community a lot. On how like, okay, so how do we get an elder? How do we provide offerings for ceremony for opening and closing prayers? So it kind of just gave them a little bit of a guideline for them for their internal use. And also they invite like myself along with chief and council to participate in a lot of their events. So I sit on I sit on a regional economic development and labor committee. And I feel like it stemmed from this relationship as well. So we're able to have representation at a regional level in regards to economic development and labor.
Thank you so much, Sydney. Councillor Summers, do you have anything to add about how your relationship has advanced since 2022?
Sure. I guess to somewhat echo what Sydney had to say there, like I think by being a part of this group, specifically, I know we're going to touch on it later, like the working groups, really became part of my, daily, weekly, monthly life. Like we became such a well coordinated group that you look forward to those meetings to learn a little bit more about each community. And to keep it's exciting when you feel like you're onto something and you're establishing some momentum. And I think that's our role and our goal now. And I think we touched on it at graduation that just because we got through this 2-year program doesn't mean we go about our own ways and see what happens. I think it's very important that we strive to work towards those. I know we have some very ambitious and lofty goals, but they're exciting at the same time for both communities. And my hope is that some of those realities will come our way here soon enough.
Exactly. Thank you so much for a perfect segue into talking about like how do you achieve joint economic development projects together? And it's exactly that by being in the program. CEDI sets you up with developing a working group, and there's staff and there's leadership from both communities, the First Nation and the municipality. And together we assist the communities in having those monthly meetings, designing the agenda, talking about updates. A lot of times they don't know about what's coming up for each other's communities. So really making it normal to talk about, what they're planning within their strategic plans or what's coming up with events with powwows or round dances and vice versa. What's coming up with the city? What are they celebrating? And so it makes it the norm to get together. At first, people are like, another monthly meeting. But oftentimes, that's a time where you can really talk and develop those relationships that are really key for CEDI. And so that it doesn't end when you graduate. And thank you for mentioning that, Councillor, that you're set up for long-term sustainable success, because then you know how to set up the meetings yourself. You know how to set the agendas and what's important for each other to talk about. I'm going to jump right ahead because I feel that you really answered about what are the benefits of meeting together. Unless you want to expand on any of that for your First Nation, Sydney, of what the benefits of the working group and regular meetings have meant for your community.
Yeah, I guess getting to know the other key players within the community of the city of Miramichi, because we didn't know exactly who. We only knew just one key person, but knowing multiple people from the city, it made it easier to try to figure out like who to contact. So I like that there was a variety of people attending the monthly meetings, and also by strengthening that relationship too, when we're looking at joint economic development initiatives, realizing that we're not a threat as a First Nation. We're not here to take away from the taxpayers or how they portray that. We're here to work together. And one of the things that we worked on that I found to be very beneficial is that we did a Miramichi regional economic leakage study, just to show how much we contribute to the local economy. And we partnered up with the city of Miramichi, and then the 3 surrounding Mi'kmaq communities, so Natoaganeg, Escanobadage, and Metabanagig. So I found and then sharing that data with our partners to show that hey, we can grow better together, and having that raw data to show that, because I know that people kind of say it, but to actually see it, it's pretty amazing to see how much we actually contribute to the local economy.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sydney. And absolutely, I think that relationships and partnerships that build through CEDI that really recognize each other's economic power. And then how could you leverage that power and strength together and build vibrant communities that prosper together? For both of you, throughout your time in CEDI, your partnership identified several priorities, including regional tourism attraction and development that's based in culture and history, land use planning and management, natural resource management, housing, green renewable energy. Really, you've touched on a wide variety of potential collaboration for your partnership, which is really great, of reasons why you have a sustainable process to build upon those. And you advance numerous initiatives and set out various plans. You know, we showed those pictures that you're holding up, the big development plans in the slide that we shared. But Sydney, what shared partnership accomplishments and collaborative projects do you feel most proud of, and why?
I think just developing the partnership and the open communication between the city and the community is probably my biggest accomplishment. But also because we were able to sign terms of reference on how we're going to work together and finalize that with both the city council and the Natoaganeg Band Council. So I found those are pretty big, and the fact that we were able to work on collective, I don't want to say issues, but projects where we both saw a priority and a need for. So I found that those were pretty big things that that I seen as very beneficial for our partnership.
Wonderful. Councillor Summers?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think Sydney almost kind of stole my answer there, but I think just setting the example for both communities on how this type of partnership should look and should work is what I'm most proud of as far as moving forward with CEDI and after the fact of graduation and whatnot. I think, truthfully, the other big thing that I'm taking away from this, I guess, I still have a hard time considering myself being a politician, but I guess I am. But in terms of the big goal and shooting for the moon, so to speak, which I love to do, you know, the property that we are looking to develop collectively has sat idle in the city of Miramichi just before we get to the community of Natoaganeg. for probably 20 years or somewhere, I'm estimating. It's a huge piece of waterfront property that has so much unlimited potential. And I kept saying during some of our meetings that it'll be exciting just for the community or the city on that side of things to see some sort of movement and some sort of development. I mentioned it here at work earlier today, and people were excited about it. And I'm very aware that a lot of what we have are just designs and, you know, visions and goals and whatnot at this point. But I think the biggest thing we can do collectively, you know, Sydney and I and the other members of this group, whenever you're trying to leverage funding from various levels of government, you know, if it's just Miramichi trying to do it, we may not be so successful. But if we have our friends from Natoaganeg pulling at those same strings or knocking on those same doors, eventually some of those doors will open. There's always going to be power in numbers. And I think that's a great thing for both communities moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to echo that too, is leveraging partnerships when it comes to funding. And then like having the city lobby for even Natoaganeg too. So I like that. You touched on that.
Thank you both for sharing that. Not only power in numbers, but power in agreements. There's something about having that signed terms of reference, your policy, your joint friendship accord, that speaks to sustained relationship that I've seen can help you qualify for many other funding opportunities. And, you know, oftentimes, even in my work, they come to me, they're like, how do you prove a partnership? Well, participating in CEDI is proof of a partnership exists, and that there's processes in place to support it. Finally, before we go into details of the program, I'd like to ask both of you to share advice or words of wisdom to those communities who are thinking about applying to the next phase in our accelerated 2-year program. And Sydney, I'll start with you.
Because our partnership started at the leadership level, I guess lobbying your current chief and council to meet with the city, the local municipalities leadership to kind of like, I guess not educate, but like kind of learn from each other and kind of develop that relationship if it isn't already there. Because I found that once that was established, it was easier for the worker bees like myself to kind of get things done and kind of move projects forward, because I was one of the ones that put the application together for CEDI along with Jeff McTavish from the City of Miramichi Economic Development Department. So I found that doing that really paved the way to kind of build that stronger relationship with like the administrations.
Yeah, and I guess just to follow up on that, from my perspective, very important for both communities to have selected individuals, mayor, council, chief, and council, that are going to be committed to being in this program. The reality is we all have our own personal lives outside of, you know, being a part of something like this. And I guess that's why I referenced the team thing there earlier on. The truth is, if, you know, there are going to be times with a monthly meeting that maybe you can't make it, right? And but as long as you have a strong team on both sides of the table working together, I know there was times, you know, due to personal reasons that I had to miss a few meetings, and I know Sydney as well on her side of things. When you're having a baby, you might not be able to make it to all the meetings, but it's great to have a team behind you that will bring you back up to speed on where we were moving forward. And I think it's importantly said, not to beat a dead horse. Like, I was honored when Mayor Lorden asked myself and Councillor DePlacy to be a part of this group. I formerly was a school teacher prior to my current job, and I worked for 2 years in the community of Natoaganeg. So it was really an opportunity for me to reconnect through the community in my new role as a city councillor, I guess. But you need to make sure that people are going to be willing to put in the work, because if you had people representing either community that are taking it for granted or, you know, just not showing up, I think the productivity would dwindle in a hurry. And I don't think we had any issues with that on either side of the coin in this case. I think it worked out great.
Thank you both for those great words of wisdom. And absolutely, in applying to the program, that along with an interest, there has to be staff dedication to the program. We need those worker bees like Sydney, and we need the decision-making power and strengths, the leadership to come together. And that can't be done off the side of anyone's desk. That can't be done at the end of the day and only via email. There is some time commitment, and you'll see through the application process how that's outlined. But I want to thank you both for sharing your insights about your partnership, your journey together. Thank you so much for sharing your time and insights with us. And Sydney, for you taking time out of your training. Thank everyone for loaning you to us. We'll let you get back to it.
Well,
And
I just wanted to add something really quick.
yeah.
Application process. So it did start with both myself and the director of ECDEV for the city of Miramichi, but a lot of the collaboration had to come from the leadership as well, right? Like, and then kind of like going back and forth. So it was a process, but it was well worth it in the end. So I just wanted to kind of end with that.
No,
And
thank
if
you.
anybody has any questions, like I don't mind sharing my contact information and I'll help the best way I can from a First Nation perspective.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Sydney. Definitely we could share your email if anyone wants to reach out to Marissa or I, and we can make that connection for you. I think that's really valuable from a First Nation perspective. And there's a First Nation part of the application process. So excellent.
And I have to jump off and I do
Yes.
apologize, but like I said, just reach out to me and get my contact information. Sorry, it's pretty loud here. So, okay, bye.
Bye, Sydney.
Yeah.
And Councillor Summers, thank you so much for your insights today as well, maybe through the FCM or municipal perspective. If there's any questions, I can also connect with you as well.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. You have a wonderful day.
You guys too. Take care.
And thank you everyone for allowing us to highlight this really amazing CEDI partnership that just graduated. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, Marissa, to talk about the program.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Sydney. I know you're gone, but wonderful. I mean, I always think to myself when a partnership sort of speaks on the highlights, it's such a proud moment for us as a program to see, the sincere dedication. And so I really recognize that in both Ryan and Sydney, and their commitment to be here today to continue to share their CEDI story, speaks a lot to that dedication. So really recognizing that in both of you. I'll sort of step back a little bit and give a little bit of background of what the CEDI program is. So thank you, Tanya, for spelling it out. It's quite a mouthful, which is why we call it CEDI. But really important for us to acknowledge that it's co-delivered by two organizations, two distinct, very different organizations, different cultures, different mandates. We're both membership-based. So as Tanya's mentioned, Tanya works with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, but is a past Cando member. So there is that, connection in many ways. But I work for Cando, so the Council for the Advancement of Native Development Officers. Again, membership-based organizations. Cando is really supporting, as many of you will know, supporting building capacity in First Nations in economic development specifically, and FCM really being, a major leader in lobbying and leveraging to ensure that Canadian municipalities have their voice recognized in federal policy and program. So we often make sure that we name this off the hop because, we are, again, two distinct organizations that have found a way to work across different ways of working, different cultures, to successfully deliver a program that we hope is equally representative of both the First Nations and the municipalities that we work with. I won't go on too much about this. I think Ryan and Sydney did a really incredible job speaking to the benefits. But it is, really important to acknowledge that, through different jurisdictions and governance models and following different legislation, often First Nations and municipalities, while extremely distinct and different kinds of government, find a lot of those same benefits in the collaboration, again, with the eye of really improving the lives and the economic development in the region and in the territory that they're co-inhabiting. The CEDI Stronger Together approach, we use it's a 4-stage approach. It's laid out here. I always say this is laid out as a linear process, and I have never changed this slide because I think it's important to speak to understand that this is not linear. This is really cyclical. At the heart of it, we're talking about relationship development. That is really what we're doing. Co-creation of finding new ways of being in partnership, in relationship with each other. And so important to acknowledge that we may, this process, like any relationship, bounces around. We may start with connection, building those relationships and that understanding, starting to identify where do our goals and our visions overlap, where do we have shared interest, getting to a place of co-creating processes that feel representative of your two communities and governments, and deciding, these are the shared areas of interest. And then putting that into practice. So creating collaborative planning tools, identifying funding opportunities, that kind of thing. But again, this is a rinse and repeat kind of cycle, and that's the approach that we take. We come with a really community-led, community-built, stronger together process. But like everything within CEDI, it's important that we as delivery teams also know how to iterate and work with your communities to ensure that your participation in the program is reflective of the process that we use. Again, Ryan and Sydney spoke to this, but we do facilitate monthly working group meetings, and I was really grateful to hear such an emphasis on the importance of those. So for the duration of your participation in CEDI, our CEDI team will deliver monthly working group meetings, and that's where we see the identified representatives, both elected and staff from each First Nation and municipality, coming together at the shared table. And much like Tanya said, one of the greatest benefits of that regular coming together is being able to share opportunities and potentially even issues before they sort of get out of hand, or before those opportunities are missed within the region. And it just sort of normalizes sharing with each other and building that trust-based relationship. Not only will our team facilitate those meetings, but we also, of course, will be coming to community and delivering 4 workshops over 2 years. And so really we'll be doing a lot of process design to ensure that there's shared learning, relationship building activities, and different collaborative planning practices. We also will support with integrating other WISE practices, again, much like Ryan and Sydney mentioned, working group terms of reference or different protocols, different agreements that can support the partnership over the long term. We will, over the course of the participation in this 2-year accelerated model, offer 4 workshops. So that will mean our CEDI delivery team will come to your communities. We ask for a strong elected and senior staff representation at those workshops. And again, we have our working group, but this is the time to sort of expand that partnership and to really diversify the engagement. We know that partnerships last over the long term when there's more than a handful of people involved. And so, especially in the first couple of workshops, we're really encouraging you to invite folks who may be involved. So it may include not only ECDev, but maybe it's also, culture and language department, it's land use planning, and the word is escaping me, engineering or infrastructure, all kinds of departments that may work alongside on this file. Of course, we bring that third-party facilitation and inclusive process design. And of course, again, the workshop objectives will vary, but we'll always include relationship building, shared learning, and doing, joint visioning and strategic planning. And lastly, our program comes with a modest grant. And more than the money, this is really meant to bring an exercise in supporting communities to start to think about leveraging those different funding relationships that may exist. And so, again, just, a really modest grant to sort of support with building the capacity. And so we're quite open to how that's used. Some partnerships will use it for, say, a feasibility study. Some partnerships will use it to build capacity within their communities to start to build capacity to be able to do partnership collaboration over the long term. Lots of different potential uses for the grant. So just to pause and reiterate, this is our accelerated 2-year program. And so we will be welcoming 8 First Nation municipal partnerships into the program. We'll be offering it over 2 cohorts, which you'll see in the application process. You will be asked to select your preference and reason for that. One thing to mention is that most of the participating communities do go through an election, which we actually think is a good thing, because it helps to support through those transitions and helps to, again, set up processes for when there is turnover, which is inevitable in both elected and staff. You're creating processes to ensure that you're continuing to maintain relationship and bring other folks into that partnership. And lastly, the grant, as I've already mentioned. Again, because this is an accelerated 2-year participation, ideally this intake is best suited for 1 First Nation and 1 municipality. That being said, we trust that you know best for your communities and your region, so we certainly wouldn't restrict. So if you're more like a partnership of 2 nations and 1 municipality, certainly we still invite you to apply. But we are asking that there is some level of pre-existing relationship between your communities, and that there are some preliminary ideas for collaborative community economic development initiatives. And again, given that our standard 3-year program gives a little more space and time to build those relationships and identify those areas of interest, we're sort of jumping ahead for, like I say, the more accelerated approach. Some of the outcomes your communities, your partnership would see, and I really want to reiterate, very much CEDI is, you get out of it what you put into it, and I think Ryan and Sydney really spoke to that as well, that dedication, that continued commitment to show up and to give time and to take that team approach, allows partnerships to develop new jointly created processes for that collaborative planning over the long term. Participate in shared learning and capacity development, building stronger relationships, of course, at the elected official and staff levels, advancing collaborative community economic development and land use initiatives, and finally, establishing shared processes that may include joint strategic plans, work plans, terms of reference, maybe a relationship agreement. Again, very much determined by the goals of your partnership. So I'll just quickly reiterate the next steps in the joint application process. Our application process and intake is open until May 30th. As sort of simple next steps, there is an application information sheet that is sort of all-inclusive of all the information you would need to know for this process. So we would encourage you to download and review that first of all. For more information on CEDI, there is a document named More Information About CEDI, which again gives you a little bit more background. And then we want to draw your attention to the fact that it's a 3-part application. So there's a joint section, a section for the municipal applicant, and a section for the First Nation applicant. There are what we call worksheets available, and those are Word documents where you can work together to populate your application prior to actually submitting it through the online form. So we've tried to make it very clear the worksheets are there to sort of prepare and draft your responses, and then when you're prepared to do so, going on for the online application forms, being reminded again of the joint section, the First Nations section, and the municipal section. For more information, of course, on our program or any of our best practices or knowledge products or tools, you can visit our website. And then again, the link there for the application information and documents. My information is available there, and certainly we can add Tanya's and connect to Tanya for her perspective and expertise as well from the FCM perspective. But from us, that is it. And I would love to turn it over to Al to see if there are any questions from anybody in the group.
Yeah, so thank you there, ladies. And if you can, I guess in your own little working station, maybe give them a kind round of applause from under your desk or wherever you're working. But it's definitely one way when we come together in this way to kind of share resources, I think is really great. And excuse me for kind of coming on here and referring it to as CEDI. We use a lot of acronyms in today's society. And so my favorite acronym is M&M. I don't know if you guys know what that stands for. But I'm really really grateful to be thought of. And so when I was asked to MC and be a part of something like this, it's a first kind of thing for me. But it's real interesting because where I come from here in Alberta, um, it's basically we have on reserve and we have off reserve, and we have something that we one of the municipal governments is called the MD of Opportunity number 17. And they kind of govern some of our rural areas there in the northern parts of Alberta. And so, I think about when we talk about partnering municipalities and First Nations, I have a prime example of where I come from, and we're like, I always say, basically wherever there's gravel is reserve, and where it's paved, that's the off reserve. So that's kind of municipal lands there. But I will open up, I guess, the floor here to anyone that would like to ask any questions. Hopefully you're I guess feeling inspired the way I am here too. But with that, I kind of have we have 31 participants with us here this afternoon. And so again, I want to commend the work that everyone is doing. Really grateful to just be thought of and be a part of something like this, especially on kind of, I guess, middle of the week. It's been a real a long week, and it's only Wednesday, and then we kind of look to the weekend. But while we have some of the ladies and people in place here over this virtual platform, kind of open up the floor to anyone that has questions. I think you can do that in the chat box, or you can, I think we will allow you to ask via a microphone too, but I've been monitoring, I haven't seen really any raised hands. So maybe if you're like me and you're kind of just figuring it out, I believe Meredith Armstrong has a question. And so we'll allow you to do that at this time. Thank you for that. And maybe you're the one that breaks the ice, and now everyone has is like, okay, one person, that's all it took. Now I can ask a question too. So thank you for being our icebreaker, and with that, we'll allow you your respective your questions there. And so with that, yeah, and again, anyone in the chat boxes there, you're encouraged to use that. And we'll kind of, I guess, with respective who it is that you're asking, and what it is that you're inquiring about. So I'll kind of go through that while Meredith here is given some time to do so. Thank you.
Great. And I think, thank you very much. This has been really helpful. And we're in Northern Ontario here, so we're very excited at the opportunity. And Marissa, thanks for your help so far. Question, and I think it might reflect one of the questions in the chat, but we're wondering what form the commitment needs to take, whether that's a council resolution or as the first step for the application. Maybe I'll leave it there because it sort of echoes some of the other stuff.
Sure. Thank you, Meredith. So we really, at this point, as far as the application process goes, we don't ask for council resolution. We do request council resolutions, both municipal and band council resolutions, following the delivery of workshop 1. And so we're asking you to, because internal processes differ so greatly for municipalities and nations as far as participation, there may need to be a council resolution internally in order to apply for the program, but we don't need proof of that. We'll be asking many questions through the application process that really dig further into than a council resolution may state, but really asking questions about why now, why this cohort, and asking background on the partnership. And then certainly we'll ask those questions again in the interview process if the partnership was selected for an interview. But like I say, our process is really, it's very important that once say a partnership is selected and participating in the CEDI program, once we come to communities, we'll have a one-on-one meeting with chief and council and a one-on-one meeting with mayor and council. And then the following day, we'll do our full day CEDI workshop. And after that is when we would ask for a council resolution, both from nation and municipality, to say, yes, in fact, we understand what the CEDI program is, and we remain committed to participating for the duration of the program. I hope that clarifies.
All right, thank you again there, Meredith. I'm just looking to the chat box here, and from Miss Sandra Austin, kind of at what level does the application need to be signed at the municipality? Does it require council endorsement or staff?
So again, I hope that answer, Sandra, that I just gave for Meredith's question answers that question for you, but please let us know if not, and I can try and clarify further.
All right, so we'll move to the next question from Rachel. I don't want to butcher your last name there. So out of respect, I'll just say Rachel. She says, thank you for all this information. Can you speak to the payment schedule for the grant portion?
Sure. So usually we would see the grant portion being accessed somewhere between, probably in the end of the first year of participation. The workshop one would really start to identify where are their shared areas of interest, what are the collaborative projects that the partnership would look to advance. And from that point, then we would often see a proposal back to our CEDI team to say, yep, the partnership the working group on behalf of the partnership has identified maybe the following 1 or 2 uses. It's a conversation that will happen at the working group level. There will be a submission of intended use to our CEDI team, and then the grant funds would be released that way for that specific purpose.
Okay, awesome. Thank you there once again. And the third question that we have in our chat box here, also from Rachel, Rachel Ball-Condren, I believe. Does the program reoccur annually?
That's a hard one for us. We're trying a number of different ways to diversify and keep the program funding flowing so that we can continue to do intakes. We know that from past experience, it's really difficult when we can only offer the program every 2 or 3 years. And so we've started working with a number of different funding partners, attempting to offer different intakes. So certainly if this is not the right time for your communities, or you're not feeling like the accelerated 2-year model is the right fit, we're very hopeful that in the coming years, we'll be able to make additional program intakes. But at this time, this is what we have available. But we have hope and fingers crossed for further intakes, not in the near future. Tanya, do you want to add anything to that from FCM's perspective?
No, as well, that once you've gone through the program, or even, utilize our toolkit yourselves, because our Stronger Together toolkit outlines everything from meeting agendas to how to identify joint economic development opportunities, even how to develop your own friendship accord, terms of reference. GMF funding and other fundings are available to you that, although, you may not be ready right now, or maybe you're not accepted in the program, that there's still ways to progress your relationship together with our tools.
Alrighty, so thank you once again. And just in the chat box here from Marie Unger, it kind of came off as a statement at first, but she actually reiterated it and said, apologies, how can I access the application forms? And I believe we posted a link there in the chat box. So Marie, if you'd like to kind of use that link there, copy and paste, and access it that way. So we're kind of, I guess, just monitoring that sense. If there's any last questions, I don't see any other hands up.
Maybe, Al, if I can, I'll just say, Maria, if there is any questions, of course, and this for anyone, if there is any questions when you reach the website and you see the difference between our practice worksheets, the Word document, and the online form, which is a link to a online form submission for the actual application, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We're happy to guide you, and Tanya's added her contact information as well. So certainly don't be shy in reaching out in the coming weeks. We're here to help you and advise on the application process.
All right. So just I guess if there's no further questions, I do want to really just commend again the work that all of you are doing. And hopefully by attending this virtual forum here today, you're taking home a little bit of insight, a little bit of expertise. And we also want to just make mention again to Cando. Thank you for you guys kind of providing this platform for us. And I believe there is a session next week on May 14th. And I want to say that they kind of continue with that 1 to 2 time slot, Mountain Standard Time. Other than that, I don't believe we have any other thing in the note, anything left in the notes. Just again, there will be $100 gift card for doing the evaluation, which will be sent out after each session. So we encourage you guys all to fill out those evaluations. And again, on behalf of myself and just for the invitation to be here today, I appreciate it very much from the bottom of my heart. And I believe that kind of concludes our afternoon forum, if I'm correct there. Unless anyone else has anything to add there from Cando or CEDI. Other than that, I believe that's the end of our notes and our formal itinerary for this afternoon. And if not, I guess we'll kind of all again, just wish you all a great rest of your afternoon. You know, going into the weekend, we really appreciate the hard work that you do here and really take time for yourself over the Saturday, Sunday, if you know what that means. If rest is a word in your vocabulary or in your grammar, try that. And I know the biggest one in mine is caffeine. I think we all know what that one is. And again, just want to thank each and every one of you. Again, really applaud Marissa, Tanya, and Sydney and Mr. Summers there with all due respect. So I believe that concludes our agenda. Thank you. And I guess we'll see some of you in a week's time. Hi, hi.